everybody, welcome back. Today we're going to talk about emotions in music. It's my favorite part of music, actually, because music has the amazing capacity to be able to express things without words. And I love that because I'm not very good at talking. When I was a kid and my mom asked me, "How was school today?" normally I would just say, "Fine, okay." Do you ever have that experience when you come home from school and whoever's in your house, maybe your mom or your dad or your aunt or uncle or your sibling says to you, "How was school?" and you just say, "Okay," because what are you going to say? There's so much to say, and it's easy to say okay, and it's much, much harder to say, "Well, actually, school was horrible today because someone took my lunch, and then I ate alone in the cafeteria, and I felt really bad and lonely, and it was a horrible day." It's very hard to say those words, right? So what I love about music is that you don't have to. You don't have to say those words. That if my mom asked me, "Hey, Sharon, how was school today?" I could say, "Well, Mom," I could take my violin, I could say, "Well, Mom, school today was..." And she would know that I felt what? Sad. Or she could say, "Hey, Sharon, how was school today?" And I could say, "Well, Mom, school was..." And she would know that I felt what? Happy. Now we're going to play a game. I've made a list of emotion words. I'm going to read them to you. And then I'm going to play music on my violin. I'm just going to make something up off the top of my head that I think describes each word. And I want you to listen to each example and guess which example goes along with which word. Remember, you can stop, pause, rewind, and listen to the examples more than once. Okay, here's the list of words. Depressed, confused, cheerful, exhausted, bored, jealous, terrified, proud, and shy. So I'm going to play different examples of music. Each example is going to correspond with one of those words. Your job is to listen to each example and then guess which word it corresponds to. Here's the first one. Here's the second one. Okay, so before I tell you the answers, I want to talk about emotions for one more second, because actually there are no right or wrong answers. I'm going to tell you how I interpreted each musical example, but actually emotions are quite complex. You rarely feel one thing at a time. Maybe if you're depressed, you're also bored. Maybe if you're cheerful, you're also excited. There's a lot of things that go into emotions. So if you've come up with some slightly different answers than the ones that I tell you, that's fine too. Before I tell you how I interpreted each example, go back and listen to them one more time. And as you're listening, think about each word and how one feels when you feel that emotion, how you feel in your body and your mind and your heart. Now I'm going to explain a little bit about how I decided to interpret each example. The first one was proud. So when you're proud of your accomplishments, you stand tall, and the music was very big and loud. And I tried to make it sound, well, just sound really proud, actually. The second one was shy. So for shy, I was thinking about how a shy person behaves. And you often, if you're shy, maybe you're quiet and maybe a little bit tentative. You're not very outgoing. You just sort of, yes, no. Try and keep the words to a minimum if you're shy. Number 3 was terrified. So for terrified, I was thinking of a more inward feeling of terrified, where you might be trembling, and inside you have butterflies in your stomach. That sort of feeling in your stomach where you're like, I don't know what's about to happen. That kind of feeling. That's what I was going for. The fourth one was bored. And for bored, I literally tried to do nothing, because that's what happens when you're bored. So I just held the one note for as long as I possibly could. And I, myself, was quite bored playing that. Number 5 was exhausted. So I figured if you're exhausted, you start to slow down. So I started fast, and then I got slower and slower and slower and slower and slower and slower. I imagined just getting more and more and more and more and more and more tired until the point where you can almost not move anymore. And that's when you're super exhausted. Number 6 was depressed. I just tried to play a very sad melody, because when you're depressed, you are sad. And I tried to keep it sort of on the low side of the register of the violin, because when you're depressed, you're not very loud and happy and high, and it wouldn't be like, that wouldn't feel depressed. You want to maybe play something kind of low and slow and sad. Something like that. Number 8 was jealous. And the way I was thinking about jealous is that when you're jealous of someone, you want what they have. So I started to play something sort of normal. And then when you're jealous, you see that and you have like a weird feeling about it. So I played a weird sound. The same notes, but kind of with an edge to them. Because you're kind of looking at what you want and you can't quite get it, and it feels uncomfortable. Number 9 was confused. And for confused, I just was thinking, when one feels confused, or when I feel confused, it's like a jumble in my brain. It's like I can't quite get out of it. So I was just kind of thinking of a jumble of notes that just sort of swirl around and never sort of work themselves out, but are just very, very confused. So that's how I interpreted those emotions. Now you're going to go onto the website and listen to a lot of different music that has a lot of different emotions, a big variety of emotions, and look at paintings that also have a big variety of emotions. One of the reasons why I love this part of music and art so much is that the one thing that all human beings have in common, no matter what you look like or where you come from or even what time period you were born in, the one thing that every human being has in common is the emotions that we feel on the inside. And the amazing thing about music and art is that when you look at a painting or when you listen to a piece of music and you're hearing someone else's emotions, you're actually communicating across centuries. It's like time traveling. You're listening to someone else's feelings. And that's the way that I feel that all human beings can be connected. And that's what makes us all alike, and that's what brings us all together. So, have fun, and see you next time.